Hello, this is the TradeSite U.S. Stocks and Futures Market Preview and Domestic. I don't know. Let's just call it preview for Tuesday, the 3rd of March, 2020. Here's a look at the ES front month futures contract. Quite a chart. After nosediving last week and trying to recover late Friday, it then bounced up here on Monday. Let's go through the major daily charts, then we'll talk about the intraday action. Then we'll go from there. So crude oil had dipped to 44. Or lower, actually, on the news, obviously, that a lot of these airlines are in trouble and not really flying people around, and they're cutting flights and may even have to shut some stuff down. We'll see what happens. Gold, on the other hand, it did rebound today to 48.09. Gold, on the other hand, up $3.30. S&P cash gained 136. Remember, this is the cash index, so this is a cleaner chart. So again, Friday, the low on the gap down and went a little lower and then came back. And I mean, well, okay, let's go through this first. NASDAQ 100 up 416 today. It was off way more than that. We'll do some Fibonacci stuff in the lab tomorrow and talk about where the 50% retracement is, because that could be the high of this move as we come up to the 10-day moving average and stuff as well. The SOX up 59.84. Biotech's up 163.78. They're really very near the highs still. Russell 2000 up 42. This is nowhere near the highs. This is near the lows of the last year. Now, the VIX is really the thing that matters, right? Because we always talk about this. The way the VIX works is, as the market spikes, when you get a move on the VIX over 40, somewhere soon after that is usually the short-term bottom. Now, we could be a lot lower in a month. I'm not saying that's, especially if everything that we're talking about with the coronavirus holds true. But the spike over 40, we got to 48 plus, almost 50 on Friday, came back to close basically at 40. And that's usually it. I mean, it's usually just a day or two. And so now the VIX, the VXX is retreating, or the VIX and the VXX are retreating, and back in the 30s. Can the market still roll? Because there's obviously some concerns that the economy might practically roll to a standstill. And obviously, when you look at the run that's happened in the last couple of months, on top of the run that had already happened over the last 10 years, but in particular the run over the last few months, it doesn't make sense from a valuation perspective, and it certainly won't make sense if we have zero growth, which is what they're talking about. So we're looking at a potential intra-meeting Fed announcement, 50 to 75 basis points they're talking about, to try to help stimulate things. But, again, there's just so many pieces to this right now, and we still don't know how bad this is going to get over here in the U.S. The trend closes at 1.18. That puts the 10-day at 1.28. There's no signal there, by the way. NASDAQ volume back down from Thursday and Friday's higher volume at 4.2 billion shares. The advanced decline ratio on the NASDAQ plus 1419. So just like we had 3 out of 5 days was really low, like some of the lowest we've ever seen, advanced decline ratios. At least we had some positive numbers here on that. On the NASDAQ, here's the New York plus 1656. Again, this is one of the biggest ones since last August or so. Google gains back 47.07. It's nowhere near the highs, but at least gained back some points. Apple up, though, 25.45. Remember, Apple's a stock that, even though it's $300, we traded a little differently than we would percentage-wise because it doesn't typically move far. It has moved quite a bit the last couple days in both directions. Netflix up 12.02. Amazon up 70.20. Tesla up 75.63. Remember that 13 sell signal on Tesla was the high candle to the tick. Facebook up 3.97, but still sitting at the lows of the last 4 months, essentially. Goldman Sachs back up 8.70 after testing the lows of the last 8 months. TLT, the 20-year bond ETF, outside day down on that in the candle and down 1.14. The Dow gained 1,293 points. Not that we care about the Dow. I will tell you, Costco's chart looks really, really interesting because that is a floating island. Down last Thursday, gapped down and lower on Friday, but came back most of the way and then gapped up here on Monday. That is a floating island reversal on Costco. But you have to think that if there's going to be a run on stores, Costco's going to be one of the beneficiaries if people start hoarding food and stuff like that in the next 6 to 8 weeks, let's say, which is what it's starting to look like. Here's the ES front month futures contract. For the 5-minute candle. So as you can see, we gapped up a little. We filled the futures gap, but not the cash gap, because the extra 15 minutes there are extra time. If you look at the S&P cash, for example, we did fill that gap because this one isn't showing that, and that's fine. So we did fill the gaps from that perspective. NASDAQ side gapped up, also filled the gap. and then turned up, pushed up ahead of lunch, dead flat for the next 5 hours, so it wasn't very interesting, and then took out the highs, and the last few minutes of the day, obviously, we were up. So that's it. I mean, it was a rebound day after a sell-off week. Not uncommon. I wouldn't say the bottom's necessarily in, and that's what makes all this so dangerous. We have to be very, very careful. We actually didn't have a stock trade trigger today because I didn't see any patterns, and I didn't see anything I liked, and I'm only going to take good setups because I want to make money. I'm not trying to force anything. That's how we work here at TradeSight. In terms of economic data on Tuesday, we've only got the IBD tip economic optimism number at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and the Ward's total vehicle sales at some point, usually at the close. I got a Fed member speaking, and that's it. But there could be anything. There could be an intermeeting rate cut, and it could happen at any time. I don't know what that'll do for the market, because what that does is the market's already bounced a lot, hoping for it. And then when it happens, it's kind of like selling the news could happen. And yeah, we got it. But does that fix anything if the entire economy is going to essentially shut down in the weeks ahead? Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal. If you've not yet taken a trial of our services, feel free to do so. We will help you out for a couple of weeks. Have a great trading Tuesday.